So I would like to talk about how Germany's, I guess, identity, how stereotypes of Germany have evolved over time. And I like to bring this up because oftentimes um, things in the world, in how societies are structured, how governments function, even simple stuff like idioms. People say, "Oh, this is their culture. This is just the way they think." But the thing is that culture evolves over time, oftentimes in response to economic and political changes. It's not the other way around. People adjust to what they see in front of them and act accordingly. Culture is not this um, like third force that like subtly influences a person. Like people don't do things because oh, I am a Serbian, so I must get up at 6 a.m. Nobody thinks like that, but they think other people think like that. Um, yeah, and I like and the thing about Germany is that initially it was stereotyped as a very warlike, bellicose, chaotic place filled with warriors, mercenaries, bloodthirsty people of all types, bandits. This was a Roman stereotype of the Germans when they lived in tribes and had frequent skirmishes with each other and the Romans. And this stereotype actually kind of continued into medieval times, where the Empire was founded, and the Holy Roman Empire was very unstable with constant civil wars and political chaos, such as the conflict between the Hohenzollerns and the Welfs, and also with catastrophes like the 30 Years' War, which mainly took place in Germany. And there's also the Napoleonic Wars afterwards, where Germany was split between which side to support, and again a lot of the conflict happened in Germany, and significant German forces were on both sides of the conflict, on the French side and on the anti-French side. Um, yeah, and in these periods, Germany was a center for mercenaries, for military innovations. A lot of the innovations in European warfare that gave them a leg up above the rest of the world and contributed to the Great Divergence spawned in Germany. Germany was also notorious for having marauding knights, and lots of bandits, and also constant conflicts between the aristocracy and the peasants, especially since there didn't exist large states that could crack down on peasants, or and also which could easily be overthrown by random knight adventuring. Um, so yeah, Germany was, for honestly, for like 1,000 years, a place of conflict and disorder and unrest, clearly communicated by a simple map of the place, um, before the German unification. But it's with German unification that a unified German identity took place, and the Germans went from being, unruly, bellicose people to being more disciplined. Although the nascent Prussian, or the German Empire founded upon the Prussian state, cultivated fanatic nationalism, but also a sense of discipline and order. And these values were at least inculcated in schools and at least became the stereotype abroad of the Germans, of substantially disciplined people, but also still quite bellicose, but not, at least not within their own country. Germany was quite orderly, even during the First World War, although revolution did topple the Kaiser, but even so, in comparison to places like France or Britain, I believe, and especially Russia, there was much less internal conflict. But then the catastrophic loss of World War II brought about a big wave of pacifism. The fact that people didn't even want to talk about World War II, like really contributed to pacifism. And in modern Germany, war is, or having anything to do with war is quite unpopular. Even sending aid to Ukraine, for example, is is surprisingly unpopular, especially amongst the younger generation, which are even skeptical of NATO and the sort. Um, and it's really interesting. And Germany's it shows how Germany's identity, which was previously quite warlike and bellicose, has shifted to becoming, more disciplined, or at least this Germans are stereotyped as disciplined, and also becoming more pacifist, being one of the least warlike countries in Europe, and much more dovish, right? Especially in relations with Russia. And this cultural evolution is interesting, especially in how it was influenced by the political events and geography. Germany was divided for a long time because it has so many rivers and forests and hills and mountains, and not many low-lying plains that incentivized the consolidation of a state. So Germany was divided for a long time because of that, and had constant skirmishes due to that. And it's only with nationalism, but also a lot of economic integration, as with the foundation of the Zollverein and the increasing global economy's complexity in the 1800s. This incentivized German states to come together economically and politically, and resulted in the rise of a common German identity. And then you have the authoritarian German Empire imposing values of discipline and nationalism, and then the loss of World War II bringing about pacifism. In each, era, the German culture, or the cultures within Germany, have shifted in reaction to the circumstances that they were in. So I hope that this video was interesting and insightful.